Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Photography Salon. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. My name is Richard Kalman, and I run the Kalman Brighton Photography Gallery. Tonight, we are going to be talking to photographer Samuel Hicks, who is going to be sharing with us how he got involved in working in photography and how he now manages to straddle a career in advertising work as well as his own personal practice. Welcome, Sam. Thank you very much for being tonight's guest.
Cheers, Richard.
How are you?
Yeah, good. Really good. How you doing?
I am all right. Thanks. A little bit nervous, I have to say, first time doing this, but I'm sure it will go smoothly or go more smoothly as we go along. So I was just going to ask to get started with the 5th week of lockdown now.
Yeah.
How are you coping? Is it still feeling like a liberating release from the normal kind of working life, or is it beginning to feel a bit like Groundhog Day, but without Bill Murray and the jokes?
It's feeling, at first it was like kind of, what's the word? Exciting is the wrong thing to describe it, because obviously it's, a horrible situation to be in, but it was kind of like really new and super sort of fun with the kids. But now as it's going on, homeschooling and, trying to do stuff, it's just really different to how it was before.
Weather's changed, homeschooling has started. It doesn't feel like that sort of novelty that we had to begin with. It was kind of like, yay, prolonged Easter holidays, and now,
yeah. No, it's now it's like, I don't know, like, now I have a quick look at the news and thinking it might be over soon, and it just keeps on going on a bit, doesn't it? But what can you do, eh?
Yeah. Well, you can do things like this, hopefully.
Yeah.
Keep yourself entertained and hopefully a few other people listening too. So listen, I just want to welcome anybody who is currently joining us. As I said, we're going to be talking to photographer Sam Hicks tonight. And I was going to really start back at the beginning, I guess, which was to find out kind of when you first picked up a camera, when you kind of fell in love with it. Was it kind of love at first sight?
Well, I first picked a camera up, I think probably at my nan's house, with my nan and granddad. She used to have like a long, skinny one that you would, it was just about as fat as the roll of film and long. Right. And I would take a couple of photos on it, but it wasn't like, this is how I'm gonna try and become a photographer when I'm older. It was more just a bit of fun. And I did used to remember when I'd go see her in a few weeks' time and the film would come back, I was really into looking at the photos. But that's sort of like the first time I remember.
That sounds strange, just saying in a few weeks' time, or waiting for the photos to come back in a week's time.
Yeah.
In that idea now.
Yeah, it is a bit different, isn't it? But yeah, that's kind of when I remember it. But then I think
it didn't grab you straight away. It wasn't like there's something about this,
but this
that creates these amazing.
I was about 7 years old, so I was into like bikes and going in the woods, skateboarding and stuff like that.
Right.
My granddad actually was a photographer.
How was he?
Amateur photographer, but he was quite into it. He had a dark room and stuff like that. I don't really remember it too much, but it wasn't till really it was in my sort of mid-teens is when I got into photography.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so you went to college to study fine art.
Yeah.
You kind of turned your back on it and took up photography. Why was that? What kind of changed?
Well, I was doing a foundation course, like a double foundation course. So basically I didn't have enough A-levels to get onto doing a degree.
Right.
So I could do like a double foundation course, 2 years, and you'd come out with that, and that could get you onto a degree course. So I had some amazing lecturers where we would be doing painting, sculpture, photography, printmaking. And for a while I thought I was gonna, try and get onto a painting degree course, but I kept on sort of doing photography. and really, really enjoying it. And my lecturer's like, to be an artist, to make a living from it, it's going to be a real struggle. And I was like, well, no, I really want to be an artist. And he's saying, well, maybe you should think about, other things. Like if you go do photography, you could always go and do graphics. There's lots more out there options for you. So I just really concentrated on photography, and I went for a couple of interviews. One was for a mixed media fine art course at De Montfort Uni, and one was at Reading School of Art for photography.
Right.
And when I went to the Reading interview, they said to me there and then if I wanted a place on the course, and I was just thought to myself, definitely want a place on the course, because my foundation course was amazing. I had such good lecturers, so passionate. Went and saw loads and loads of exhibitions.
Yeah.
And during that course that I went and saw an exhibition by Richard Avedon. I think it was his Evidence exhibition, which was touring around the world pretty much, I think. And when I saw those prints, I was like, man, that is what I want to do. I want to take photos. He had up some of the stuff from Andy Warhol's factory, some of the Midwest, some of his fashion stuff. And they were like huge prints. They were like 8 to 10 foot wide, 6 foot high. They were massive, and they were beautifully printed. Like the detail was phenomenal. So it was pretty much there on that day that I thought to myself, this is what I would love to do. And then when I got asked, offered a place on the course there and then, I was like, yeah, I'll take it. Yes, please.
And so was it kind of seeing photography in that sort of environment for the first time that made you think that, you could just as well be an artist using the medium of photography as you could for, I guess what would have been much more the traditional kind of forms of arts?
Yeah.
In what?
Yeah, definitely.
Early 90s or?
What, when I did this?
Yeah, going to see that exhibition. Yeah,
and mid 90s, probably. Okay. I'm guessing about 94, something like that.
So not a lot of photography was necessarily kind of cutting through at that point and being put on in, large scale museum or public shows.
Probably not. I mean,
yeah,
I don't remember too much about. I remember that exhibition. I remember going to see a lot more sort of installations. So we would go down Brick Lane, went to Tate Britain a lot, pretty sure I saw the airplane hanging from the ceiling there. I saw lots of stuff, but yeah, you're right. Probably not a lot of photography. No, probably not a lot of photography. I was seeing a lot of photography and reading about a lot of photography. So I saw, but I was still on the foundation, and it was that period of time where I was sort of like learning about artists. I was really more into like American expressionism. So like painters like Jackson Pollock or Franz or de Kooning, like that in a way.
Right.
But then I got into Richard Avedon, and from then I got from reading about the Beat Generation, Henry Miller, Jack. I then got into, oh Jesus, what's his name? My God, I can't believe his name.
Who, photographer?
Yeah, my God, what's his name? Robert Frank. Can't believe I forgot.
Okay.
So I got into Robert Frank, yeah. And then that's when I really got into sort of like photography.
Yeah.
Big way. And that introduced me to Stephen Shaw, and then that introduced me to Joe Sternfield and William Eccleston and stuff like that, basically.
Yeah, hard not to be impressed by those sorts of guys' work.
Yeah, really hard. I mean, to be honest with you, like, I still was probably a little bit more into Robert Frank, just because I loved his sort of sense of spirit, how his images looked like they were captured you know, like he was out there trying to fight and grab these images, and he was a part of it all. Whereas if you look at more, I think now, if you look at, say, Stephen Shaw, they're taken in a different way, and he shoots in a different way. I'm not saying they're better or worse, but at that time in my sort of thought, I was really into photographers like that. And I just sort of learned about Robert Capa and other sort of 35mm style photographers that would literally just get in there and take these amazing photos.
So would they give you some of that? Would they give you a bit of a kind of, you know, a history of photographic artists of that area? Or was it much more a kind of...
Who's this? College?
That, yeah. Or was it much more about how to use the cameras and about...
Well, I mean...
processes?
I think my first college, my foundation course, the lecturers were like really amazing. They were like, you know, they were so enthusiastic. Some of them, there was a guy called Phil, and he'd take like about 5 of us, and there was like this storeroom where you could get like film and paper and paints, and you go, guys, I've got the key. Does anybody need anything? You go, yeah, can I have a bit of film? And we'd go in there and he'd just start chucking us stuff, and literally it'd be like 20, 25 pounds worth of stuff, which was a lot of money in, you know, in them days when we weren't earning money. And so they were like amazing. They were really enthusiastic. But then when I got onto my sort of degree course, the lectures were a lot different. It was a lot more about, you've got to get on with it yourself. You know, you have to be in there apart from like half a day a week. The rest of the time was just down to you to do your stuff. So I would say probably my degree course is when I really started like having to like, and wanting to learn about photography in the sense of looking at photographers and artists. Whereas the foundation course, it was a lot more sort of discussions and stuff like that.
And then how did you go from the course to getting into advertising? Was it a kind of an easy thing to do, or was it kind of hard work, kind of getting your foot in the door?
Well, it was, so on my second year of the course, I had the college arranged some work experience, and my first bit of work experience was at a pack shop factory, which is literally where you would say, I don't know, say you make cardboard boxes, or say you make wheels for, I don't know, combine harvesters. You'd send your product there and people would shoot it.
Right.
And, you know, not putting people down that do that, but it's not that exciting. It's quite dull some of the time. And I was sort of shadowing this guy, and he didn't even talk to me. Like, he was so bored or didn't want me there. So I just kind of walked out at lunchtime. I was like, I don't want to do this. And then, so I went and saw my lecturer a couple of days later, and he was like, well, what was wrong with it? I said, well, it was just like, it was so, you know, kind of like soul destroying. That's not what I really want to do. And he's like, well, the AOP have got in contact, and there's a photographer called Jerry Oak who's going to be doing doing a shoot in a big studio in Wimbledon. Do you want to go along? And I was like, yeah, I'll go along. So basically, I went along, got there, and I walked in. You know, I got there a bit late because I had to get the train, so probably got there about 9 or something. Photography's early doors, isn't it? Like, so advertising photography, you're always there early anyway. So it had been going on for a while, but I got there and I just walked into this massive studio. There was loads of people in there, and there was tons of lights, and there was a Porsche sitting in the middle on this set, and the contrast between where I'd been a couple of weeks before was just amazing.
Cardboard boxes to Porsches.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it wasn't the fact that it was a Porsche. It was just the fact that I'd come onto like this set where everyone was super happy to be there. Yeah. And there was like about 40 lights on the car, and I didn't know what was going on. I just, you know, I didn't know what was going on, and it was amazing.
And what did you actually get to do, or were you just kind of making tea and...
Yeah, so I guess, so like, you know, I was making cups of tea and coffee, pretty bad, I guess, because I don't even drink tea or coffee. And just sort of like talking to the assistants. So Jerry had, I think, about 2 or 3 assistants, and there was a set builder, there was a background painter, and then, you know, and he was shooting on 10.8, and sometimes he would shoot we'd shoot these Polaroids, and they were shot in sections. So you'd have a 5:4 here, then here, then here, then here, and cut them up and stick them down. And it was amazing. It was like just going on, seeing stuff you'd never seen before, basically. And shooting on 10.8 was, you know, it's like at the time, it was the best thing you could shoot on, you know.
So this must have still been kind of heady days of advertising photography, when budgets were big and clients were happy to kind of indulge.
Yeah, I mean,
photographers, which maybe is not the case so much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really what it was on, but not that. All I know that it was just like watching the craft of it, how the guys produce this work, and the detail and the craft that goes into it. That was just what I just was blown away by it, and also just shooting Polaroids on the back of a 10.8 camera is just it's brilliant to do. It's amazing. It's like, you know, going sort of working with Paolo Reversi or someone like that, you know, just the Polaroids alone, I'm guessing, you know, each Polaroid you do are probably 40, 50 pounds, just one Polaroid, do you know what I mean? And we were shooting like 15, 20 a day or something like that. But yeah, and then just the skill that was involved in it. There was so many lights, like lighting the background, lighting the car, and there was a floating ceiling, and it was, you know, it was, for someone that's never seen it before, it was amazing.
Yeah. So that, I guess, kind of bit you, and it gave you a taste for getting involved in the advertising world.
Yeah, so basically, I decided that because I'd been on my course, this was middle of the second year, and I was thinking, right, well, this looks really interesting. So I was speaking to the assistants there, Jerry's assistants, who all of them are now shooting as well and stuff like that. You know, obviously they'd been to college and they knew how it worked. And they were saying, I remember it vividly, that one of them was saying to me, right, what you've got to do if you want to get into this is you've got to move to London. You've got to assist for about 4 or 5 years. And in that time, you're going to work all the hours that are available, probably for not much money, but during that time you're going to build up your portfolio, and then you can go and see people with your book, and that is how you break into being an advertising photographer. And so I decided that I would try and contact other photographers. So I went back to college. I got one of the AOP award books out, and I looked through it, and I picked 4 of who I thought were the best photographers in that book. Yeah. And then I wrote them a letter each, posted it off, and then I got sort of replies in about a month or 2 months' time from them. In between that, I went back and assisted Jerry a little bit, and I assisted some other photographers as well. And then I decided that I'm going to leave college early into the 3rd term of my second year. Just because I guess if you're learning on the job, you're going to be learning more quickly, right? And then having to try and do the groundwork of breaking in and assisting, which you'd have to do anyway, I guess, if you'd graduated. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is it. I mean, I finished the course. I got my sort of qualification, and I kind of maybe wished I stayed on and finished it, because I basically, at the time, you would get a HND if you did 2 years and a degree if you did 3 years. And I didn't do the 3rd year, so I didn't get the degree. Right. But at the same time, even if I did get the degree, I still would have left and contacted photographers and stuff like that. But, you know, in them days, there was. Can I just ask, do you think they would have been, you know, for anybody kind of listening who's in a similar position, do you think the people that you're approaching were particularly bothered that you had not? No. It wouldn't have made a difference to them giving you a chance to work for them, and not paying you anyway, and they're making you work ridiculous hours. Yeah, I mean, they did. In fairness to them, after on college work experience, but you know, as soon as that was done and I was ringing people up, they did start paying me straight away and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of, you know, I guess, I don't know what percentage of it is, but quite a few photographers don't go to college, and some photographers assist and then go to college because you can then go and use a lot of equipment because you've learned kind of what you want to do, and you use your college time, and you can do your degree on dissertation on a project that you want to do. So there's no sort of definite way that you have to get into becoming an advertising photographer. I mean, some photographers or directors were art directors, you know, some were art producers,
Right.
you know, so it's not all one definite way. It's not like, I guess, if you're a doctor, you have to go to university, don't you? If you're a medicine doctor, but
You'd hope so.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not that we ever check anybody's qualifications. So, I mean, you basically followed that guy's advice, right? I mean, I don't know if you moved to London, but you spent 4 or 5 years assisting, and then how did you kind of know it was sort of time for you to try and start out on your own as an advertising photographer? What kind of precipitated that move?
Yeah, so I mean, I got straight into, so basically I finished college in, I don't know, May or something like that. I was working in a fast food restaurant, and a photographer called Ashton, he called me up, Ashton Kydage, who I'd sent a letter to, one of 4 photographers, and he said, "Oh, I've got some work coming up. Do you want to come and help out on it?" So I went and helped out on it, and then from that, I basically I was living in Hayes by Heathrow Airport, and then over the next few months saved up, and then I moved into Peckham, and from then on I just started assisting.
Yeah. And so that was kind of for what, the next 5, 6 years of your life?
Yeah, I'd say 5 years of my life. Yeah, definitely. And you know, but it was good because, like, even though I wasn't really taking a lot of photos for the first couple of years because I was so busy, I'd be taking photos like a snaps on jobs where I was an assistant, you know, where we were traveling. But it was brilliant because I was talking all the time with other assistants and, you know, and with people I was working with. And it was, you know, just always photography, always talking about photography, always thinking about photography. It's really, you know, really good.
And so I was kind of asking before that what was it that kind of, you know, made you feel like it was time to branch out to do it for yourself rather than being an assistant anymore? Was it just the amount of work that you'd done by then, or were you kind of getting opportunities
Well,
to do?
yeah, no.
Because it must be hard to make that kind of leap from, you know,
Yeah, no, I mean,
being in charge but having the security to then thinking I'm going to, you know, take my portfolio around myself and have to kind of do it on my own merit.
yeah, so what happened with me is I actually got a call from an agent, and because this is after about 4 years, I was getting my book together, maybe 4.5 years, I can't remember. I got my book together, and I got a call from an agent, and she said that an art producer, an art buyer, had seen my folio and just recommended my work to her. And at that time, I hadn't really thought about contacting agents because just hadn't really thought about it too much. And so I went and saw her, and she was really cool. She gave me some good advice, and she said she'd be interested in taking me on. And then as soon as that happened, I thought, well, I better call some other agents or email them. It was just, and over the next sort of couple of months, or maybe not even that, a month, I went and saw a few agents, and I got a few I got a few offers basically.
Right.
So
is that how, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Yeah.
So, I mean, is that, you know, because I don't know that world at all. Is that how it works, that you basically, you go through an agent if you want to be a commercial photographer in your own right, you find an agent, they rep you, and it's them
I think
making the appointments for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can work for an advertising agency or for a client without an agent, but
right,
generally the way it works, you need somebody on working with you that can organise, you know, and put people together. It's your agent is kind of a producer as well, so you know they're putting a quote together, they're talking to the agency and the advertising agency or the client if it's direct and stuff like that. So there's a lot. I mean, it doesn't, until you get into advertising photography, you don't necessarily realise how much work's involved in producing producing photography or film, especially film. I mean, you know, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into it. So you need a team of people pretty much to do that, and you're part of the team. So even though the look of it is, say, kind of your work, you know, there's a lot of people that's getting you to that position of being able to take the photograph.
And do you remember what your first job was, where you were kind of lead photography, if you like?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean,
would you like to share it with us?
Yeah. So, I mean, I haven't actually got that one.
Have you got some pictures for us?
Yeah, definitely. Hold on. So have you got my screen now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So should I just quickly run through this? This is my early work.
Sure.
This is some of this work here is what I was bringing out to show people, you know, when I got an agent and also when I was getting work, because basically I was showing art buyers before I got an agent. I was going around. So this is some of the images from
art buyers. Sorry, art buyers are people who specifically work at ad agencies, are they?
Yeah, I guess they're nowadays called art producers or producers. These are people that commission you to take photographs. And they work with creatives or art directors who then have come up with the idea. So what will happen is, say somebody wants a picture of somebody kicking a football into a football net. Someone will say to a creative, we need a photographer to do this, and the art buyer will go, we know this great photographer that can do this. Richard Kalman, he's the man. You know, he's really good. He's down in Brighton. He can do this.
He comes cheap.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is what I was taking off. So this is actually in that show, this shot, you'll know this. So literally I took this photograph a year after I left college, and I was on a shoot out in, this is where Burning Man is. It's Black Rock Sands.
Right.
And we were there because of the land speed records. And these are some of the photos I took. Basically, I was up super early in the morning. I was jet lagged, and I just walked around with my camera. And I just found these old sort of cars, and they'd just been left there. You know, that car there, that was a Cadillac. That was probably from the 50s, I'm guessing. Yeah. You know. That was the photographer I used to work with, Ashton, on a plane. And then these images, I actually kind of planned these out. And this image is, even though it's years old, this still does quite well. It's in a stock library, and every couple of years someone leases, uses it for stuff.
Right.
So all this was shot on film, mainly on the 35mm camera. But these were kind of like found shots. I didn't really plan these as much, you know what I mean? This was in Namibia. This was a schoolboy walking home. This was in Cape Town. Patrick, he worked at the hotel we were staying at. These were some kids that were playing near our set in Cape Town. You've seen this one. This is shot of a road when I was assisting on a job. We was in Namibia. And then these is probably a bit more how some of my earlier commissions I got were from shots like this. This is in Brixton. This is Eastbourne Pier. This is when I was kind of going for a bit of a Paul Strand phase.
Okay.
And then this shot, this was kind of the first shot that got got me a little bit of recognition. I entered this into the Association of Photographers, and that got in. And then these shots here, these next shots, these kendo shots, kind of got me going. So these shots were planned out, and I spent quite a bit of time on this. And basically, I wanted to do some shots of some fencing, and I was speaking to my best mate, schoolmate, and he was like, "Do you know kendo?" I'm like, "I think I know it." And he showed it to me. I'm like, "That's it. I want to do these kendo warriors." So I spoke to a friend of mine, a producer, and I said, "I'm looking for this really gnarly old warehouse." And there was one in Camberwell, which was the bus garage, but they wouldn't let us shoot there.
Right.
So she found this old air base about 2 hours out of London. And I hired a load of plasterers' lights, hired that chandelier from a prop house, and took them up in the back of a van. And my mate drove the van, and I brought these guys up from the British Institute of Kendo. And I had the shots planned out. So I had that drawn in my sketchbook, had that drawn. And then this shot here was just a happy accident. And that actually won in the Association of Photographers, like the category I was in at the time. And this kind of really got me going in sort of commercial photography, these shots.
So some of these are shots that you just took the opportunity to take while you were on a kind of commercial job.
Yeah, but they weren't what we were shooting. You know, I wasn't like shooting what the photographer was shooting. I was just, because I was like in Cape Town or America or somewhere like that. And I was.
And you would get a bit of time off to be able to do stuff like that.
Well, I wouldn't say time off, but you know, it was like camera club. We were just like me and the others
on the way back to the airport.
We were just, you know, we were super keen to make photography. And then, so this shot, this is of my wife in a swimming pool on holiday. And this ended up being a book cover. This was bought, and that's like a book cover in America. So yeah, so I was quite lucky in the sense of some of the stuff I did quite quickly was used, basically.
Yeah. So I was going to come to a question a little bit later, but it seems appropriate to ask now. I mean, obviously all the time that you were working in the commercial kind of advertising world, you were taking your own personal works.
Yeah.
But were they done effectively with the intention to improve your portfolio to, you know, be able to get more commercial work? Or were you already thinking at that point, you know, there's other things that I want to do with my photography beyond just sort of the commercial world? Were you already thinking about the possibility of, you know, images being used in a separate context, i.e., I guess, moving towards kind of, you know, personal projects, work being
at that time,
not really there yet?
Yeah, no, at that time, I didn't really see too much of a difference between the two.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it as like the sense of like, I need to shoot this to get advertising work, or I need to shoot that to, you know, come and sell work with you. I just shot shots that I thought that I wanted to do, basically.
Yeah.
And like these shots here, this was really influenced by Wim Wenders, like massively. And then this shot here is like from I was mentioning Avedon earlier, and I was with my wife, and we were in Ireland, and I come across this circus, and I actually had the photographer who I was working for. He was really cool. He used to let me borrow his cameras. I took his cameras with me. So I had this RZ and 3 lenses and film. And basically I found this circus, and I was like, can I take some photos? And it's not like here now. They were like, yeah, no problem. And like, so I started taking some photos, and this is what come out from that shoot. And they were like, looking back at them now, you know, this is like 15 years ago, but you know, I'm super happy with them. They feel really, they've dated well, and they feel kind of quite strong, you know, images.
No, I like them very much. I remember they were some of the, I love that one of the elephant. They were some of the first pictures that I ever saw.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it was only like, it was only
Yeah,
afterwards.
she's
That,
great.
yeah, so like if I show you this, so my black and white work, I would always have a couple, because even though I could print probably like 2 out of 10. Whereas there was some in London, you know, there was some great black and white printers, Robin Bell and Dan Tierney. And Robin Bell printed some of my work over the years, and he was really nice. About 8 years ago, he did a book, and he had like, you know, he'd printed for like Bill Brandt and I don't know, Patrick Dumarche. He's printed for like big
Terence Donovan, Lee
yeah,
Miller,
exactly.
Kevin
You know, and then,
Cummins. I should read them on the book.
yeah, and then he goes, "Can I print a couple of yours?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." So like, and then even he references in here. He's put because he used to call me whippersnapper. He referenced that he thought this was like Diana Avis, which was really cool. And I at the time didn't really know much of her work.
Yeah.
Only in recent years, I went to her exhibition, I think last year or the year before, sort of thing. So yeah,
Lovely picture of that.
cheers. And then so these were all sort of photos I was doing as I was assisting. So all this was, I was doing this before I stopped assisting.
Yeah.
This is my friend's dog, and they were like really big VW fans, and they had just a VW badge on his collar. And then this was my first real proper ad job there. So that was for the Met Police for the Notting Hill Carnival.
Right.
And we shot that on Blackheath Common. And as we were shooting it, the actual Met Police flew over in one of their helicopters and come down because they thought the police car had been abandoned and something could happen to it. But yeah, that was, you know, it's such a great idea, and it's so simple, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, and these then are, and this was probably my fourth job where I was lucky enough to to go to Argentina and shoot stuff for O2 up on a dry lake bed.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's what dreams are made of. Like when you're at college, if someone said you're going to do that, you know.
So how old were you, do you think, roughly, when you went to Argentina to shoot for O2? That must have felt like a variety.
So I was about 27, I reckon.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I was old, like, but not as in, because literally I'd only just stopped assisting. So
yeah,
26, 27, yeah. But it was like, it was amazing, you know, amazing job to do. And then this was a job for Land Rover, and yeah, so I shot that in 3 parts. The background, the hills, I shot that on holiday just by chance because I was shooting backgrounds. And I shot the Land Rover and the ants in Wales, and then the sky was from somewhere else. But that did really well in sort of like competitions because of the idea. And at the time, Land Rover were doing these really cool ideas. It was all about, you know, Land Rovers go on forever sort of thing, which they do. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
there we go. And then lastly, this is then I stopped assisting, and this was about 2 years after I stopped assisting. I did some jobs for links for Axe, and basically I got these jobs. I went and saw a guy and I showed him some work, and he really liked, hold on, let me find it again. He really liked this shot, and that shot there helped me get those other shots that I just showed you.
Right.
Sort of thing.
And listen, just because I'm keeping one eye on time, and I know we haven't started talking about any of your kind of personal stuff, why don't you give us a quick show of, I guess, what would you say has been your sort of biggest advertising career kind of hits to date, at least?
Well, I mean, there's a couple, so I'll go through it quite quick. So I guess I wouldn't say like I've got lots of jobs I'm really proud of and really love doing, but I guess in a way for a job that was really close to sort of what I was doing at the time, which we really should talk about the show you put on of mine called On the Way, which is like about a road trip I've done. I did a road trip for Avis in Chile, and basically I shot a load of images on a road trip, and it was like a dream job. Down in Chile for about 10 days, drove 3,000 kilometers in a van with a load of people, and we just went and saw these amazing locations and just took a brilliant photo. Well, just took great
I love
photos.
the llamas.
Yeah. And to get to that location was literally like a couple of hours up a dirt track, like with rocks falling off. And this was like really high up. It was amazing. It was just like, like I thought it's brilliant. And I'll show you in a minute, but I got this job because of the work I'd done myself that you put on the show from. They saw that and
right.
Need to do it. So these were the shots I did. And basically then what happened was they put them everywhere, but this is one of the places they put them. They wrapped the IMAX in town and they printed the images huge. That's
a pretty big scale, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, it's kind of like, I was super happy, blown away by it. It's quite funny, just tell you, like, my dad had come over for the day, and I was giving them a lift back to the station. I was like, "Oh, Dad, I've got some images up. I haven't seen them yet. Should we just stop and see them?" So I was driving back up the road there, and I was like, "Oh, look at them! Don't they look amazing? They're amazing, aren't they? Look massive." And he was like, looked at them and went, "Do you know what? I caught a bus from that bus stop once, right there." And he didn't even say anything else apart from that. And I just thought, "Oh, that shows it all, doesn't it?" What's interesting to me is not
way to bring you back down to earth, right?
Yeah. So
listen, I am going to move on if that's okay, because I'm aware that time is ticking. We back in the gallery in Brighton in 2009 had your kind of first big solo show, On the Way.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was shot, well, all of it actually was shot kind of in the American West. And I just wanted to know whether it was a kind of accident that area was a big kind of influence on you, or, I mean,
yeah.
From
no, it was no accident. No. It was like, I deliberately went there. So as I was saying earlier, I was like looking at work by sort of Stephen Shaw and Joel Steinfeld and William Eccleston and Robert Frank, even though those photographers are probably 20 years between them, if you know what I mean, from their work. I was massively into their work, especially the colour work. And I would say probably Stephen Shaw's work was more my thing at the time. So I basically thought, I'm going to go out there. So I asked a mate if he wanted to come on a trip with me, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll come on a trip." And I bought 2 tickets. The first trip I did, I bought 2 tickets to Houston. We landed in Houston, and a friend of mine, she said, "Oh, why don't you go and visit my uncle while you're out there? He's in New Mexico," which was about 1,400 miles from Houston. And we spent about 12 days driving around Texas and New Mexico, and I didn't really have any plans apart from meeting up with Gerald. And these are some of the images from that first trip. So this image here was on that first trip. This was as well. This is a slightly later trip when I went to LA, but the principle was the same. I didn't really have any reason to be there. I hadn't really thought about too much apart from just go on a road trip. That's what I really wanted to do, because I'd read books by Henry Miller and Jack Kerouac and, all that, especially Henry Miller. That's just, what he did in some of his books. Yeah. And these were images I just captured. And as I sort of said before, like, like I would, it's kind of like you drive around and get a feel for a place, and you would, so this guy, Bruno, I met him, I got talking to him, and these were his cousins, and you just got to start chatting to people. I met Hayley, I met her on the street. I spoke to her and she said, "Yeah, come and meet me in a couple of hours." And then she took me around her town in Pampa, and she introduced me to this guy, Ricky, who was the sort of leader of the chain gang. And that guy standing next to him, who I wasn't allowed to get his name because he was in the chain gang. Literally, there was like 20 guys on the street, like doing work to the street to make it clean, sort of taking their pictures. And then she then took me.
I love the fact they can stop for a photo.
And then. Yeah, and then, you know, I did think it out, like I did in the sense of I was really sort of into the sort of composition of it all. I'd read about how Joel would compose stuff using the ground glass screen, and I did think a lot about that sort of stuff. But, you know, these are happy accidents, like this shot here of the Buick. I mean, that was literally at like 6 a.m. We were driving around trying to find images, and there was just this car outside a motel with brown doors, and the car was brown. It just all happened.
And your work, I would say, is often described as having a cinematic feel. This is something that you sort of consciously try and achieve, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these images here, so like that image there, that's the one that's been quite popular out of that show, as you know. And yeah, I mean, so all these shots here that I'm really are kind of shot in low light, which is when you can shoot cinematically without lighting it yourself. So a lot of these shots I didn't light, but if I was doing a commission, I could light them to look more cinematic. But I would pick the time of the day, basically dusk or dawn, to try and capture these images so they look really cinematic in my, in my eyes.
I just have to stop you here. I've got a question on that picture. Go back to Dallas car.
Yeah.
From Daniel, who's a very nice client from Brighton. Hello, Daniel, who's asking, who has that picture and loves it. And I was just wondering if there was a story behind it. Yeah,
so this is in Dallas. So this is right in the downtown section. And this was probably, I don't know, it was probably about, when was 9/11? I can't remember. I'm really bad, but was it 2001 9/11? Something like that. Anyway,
yeah.
So it was about 5-6 years after 9/11, and or maybe even not that long. Maybe anyway. So we were down there, me and my friend, driving around, and we had this massive sort of like pickup truck, and because everybody drives out there, they have massive lots, even downtown, where you can park your car. And this was probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9 at night. Most people had left work, so these lots were kind of empty. So I was just looking around and I found this car. I was taking a photo of it, and this man come up to me and said, "Are you a terrorist?" I was like, "No, I'm not a terrorist," because I knew I wasn't going to do anything funny, because I knew that, rightly, he's quite sensitive and whatever. And I goes, "No, I'm just taking some photos." And he said, "Well, why here?" And I said, "Well, I just really like the car." And he's like, "Oh, it's just an old car. Isn't there nothing better you can take a photo of?" And I was like, no, I really like it. And basically I was shot on film. I took about 5-6 frames of it. And this was one of the shots. All I did was probably go a little bit left and right on the other ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's those there basically. And then, and these are some other shots where I was in Roswell there. This is back in California. This is White Sands. White Sands is an amazing place to go and photograph. I had seen some other photographers' works there, so I was really keen to go and have a look at White Sands. This was a young boy, and this is his grandparents, and their whole family were there. There was about 10 of them all playing on these beautiful sand dunes. And then this is one of my favourite shots. This is I was on a dry lake bed in El Mirage in California, and a storm come in, and literally you couldn't see more than sort of like 10-15 meters, but I shot that just through the car window, just because everybody had packed up. And then to the right, it spoils it a little bit me saying it, but there was this massive sort of motorhome where people were sitting. And then this is really sort of Stephen Shaw to me, the sort of like the way it's going down the street, and maybe not so much the kids the way they're posing, but I wasn't going to tell them what to do. They were like really
I bet.
into it. Yeah. And then that's Gerald, who I went and visited. I met him. He killed a rattlesnake in my honor Well, not in my email, but gave me a rattlesnake. Yeah, and then this is this last shot in the series, and this was a bunch of guys, just sort of like, I guess, they weren't homeless, but you know, they were up for having a good time most days, just drinking on the beach.
I haven't seen that one before. I like that.
Yeah.
So listen, I was going to ask you next. I've noticed that, you know, you are doing more work with film, things like In My Blood, which I think we might try and show a very quick clip of. Is
Right. Yeah.
that you are kind of interested in progressing more of, moving into film?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I just kind of see it as a progression of like of what I want to try and do, like making imagery. And like it's taken me a long time to be able to produce films that are a good standard, and that's because now I work with people that we work, you know, it's a much more of a collaborational process where to make a film you need to work with, you know, DOP, and you need to work with editor and, you know, a grader and stuff like that. It's not so much you can do, but also because I've worked on so many film sets as a stills photographer, I've kind of seen how it happens, and I can basically, as an assistant, you learn how to take photos for being an assistant. And because I've been on so many film sets, I've kind of seen how it works to make films. I feel now I can produce films that I want to share with people that are good enough. And sort of long-term goal is to maybe try and make, I'm not going to say a Hollywood film, but, you know, make an hour-long, some sort of documentary, feature doc, basically. And maybe try and make something for TV. I don't know, because there's plenty of TV now. So yeah, definitely. But I don't want to sort of move totally out of photography. It's just like the next sort of step in image making for me.
And so have you got new photographic projects that you're working on, or are you kind of...
Yeah, not that I'm working on right now, but ones I've planned. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And with lockdown, I'm not shooting anything apart from stuff I can shoot at home. But yeah, I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on, film projects, and I've got, as every photographer's got, lots of sort of ideas of stuff to do, sort of thing.
And you have, because we are getting close to wrapping up time, you've just done a job for the NHS, right?
Yeah, I have. It isn't directly for them, it's to inspire them. But
Okay.
yeah. So, but these are going out on posters. So I shot these down my street, and basically I put a message out on our street's WhatsApp, and these are some of the stuff. And this first image is running now, I've been told. And
Not that you can go out and see it, clearly.
Yeah, the idea is, the idea is that they inspire the sort of key workers and the NHS for like, and thank them for like, you know, doing what they're doing, and sort of showing them that we're staying inside as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but this was great fun to do. And what was really nice is my eldest son, which is the boy on the left.
Him?
Yeah, he come and assisted me, and he had a great time. Really cool time, you know. And it was, you know, it was only on our street. We didn't meet anybody else, and it was all social distancing. So it was really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, listen, on that note, it is time for us. It's gone very, very quickly, and I'm sorry we didn't get to cover a lot of the stuff that I had to ask you, but because it is 7:55 and it's Thursday night, we did want to wrap up in time so that everybody can go outside and go and show their support for the NHS and make as much noise as they possibly can, banging, clapping, whooping, whatever it is that you have got to do. So I just want to say thank you very much, Sam. Really appreciated you being a guest on tonight. And thank you very much to everybody who was listening in. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry that, we didn't get to answer too many questions about your personal work, but everybody can look up Sam's work on samuelhicks.com or on brighton.com, quick plug. And last thing to say is that we will be back actually next week rather in a fortnight's time. So next Thursday, at 7 p.m. on May the 7th with the dynamic advertising duo Ilka and Franz. So if you want to come and listen to that, then if you kind of sign up through the normal channels, it would be a pleasure to have you. So again, Sam, thank you very, very much. Thank you everybody for...
Welcome. Thanks, Richard.
And keep well, all of you, and hopefully, Sam, see you in real life quite soon.
Yeah. Cheers, Richard.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. Keep well. Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, bye.